Hey guys, well here's an update on our Super Duty Derby truck. Hey guys, Alex here from All For Him Racing, and today giving you an update on our Super Duty Derby truck build that we have going on this year. So we've been hard at work getting things stripped apart and removed, and we've actually gone ahead and now the truck is actually facing the other direction in the shop, as you might notice. Let's just go ahead and show you what we've been up to. So we've got all the glass removed at this point, you know, the rear glass, the front windshield, the door glass, all the extra chrome and molding pieces have all been removed at this point. Same thing for the doors. You've already seen some of this. We've just have the steering column sitting there right now just for moving it around. But as I said, the rest of this has all been removed. All that's left that needs to be removed still is the door handles, which I'm keeping operable until the cage is welded in and good, and then we won't have to use the doors anymore. So at that point we'll take those out and lock the doors and call it good. So that's what we've been up to inside the cab. Now up front, you'll notice something's missing. We were able to get the motor pulled, and that was a big relief to have that all done. We were actually able to pull this 5.4 liter with the transmission and transfer case all in the same pull. I was pretty impressed that that actually worked. I wasn't entirely sure. Did some reading, it said it should, but you know, until you get into some projects you don't really realize how much work that might actually be. Had to remove the cross member there for the transmission, so that cross support, that's been removed and just in the bed for the moment. We'll have to modify that for our transmission when the time comes, but for now that definitely gives us room to work. And there is just a ton of room for a motor in here. I mean, here's the bumper mounts, so you can see how far forward that is. There's the main cross member that we're going to be putting our engine mounts to, and we can tuck a motor up well under here. It's kind of hard to see exactly in the video from a depth standpoint, but there is at least a good 1.5 feet from the farthest most out point to the firewall. So that is a lot of clearance, so we can shove the motor as far back. We're going to just try to shove it as far back as we can and still keep the motor mounts nice and welded onto the main cross member here. That's where the original mounts were. You can see the holes there. That's where we're going to try to line up as best we can and get the motor as far back as possible, just to give us more room in the front end here, so that way we, you know, don't damage the motor itself. Radiator may be a little bit vulnerable, but we'll just see what we can do to get as much space between us and that front bumper with the motor. So that took some time to get that all done. We obviously had to remove all the wiring, all the hoses, you know, different lines. We still have some of the electrical lines running to the back that ran to the fuel pump. That tank has now been dropped, so we can kind of peek under here. Still have the drive shaft on. Just was in a hurry, didn't really have a chance to unbolt it, so we unbolted it from the transfer case but left it on the rear axle. Got all the exhaust removed, all that shielding removed, the gas tank, as I said. Still have the fuel lines tucked in the frame rail here to peel away and get those out. We'll probably roll it out in the stones and take care of that. And then at this point, now it's a clean slate. Now we can really start building. I mean, basically everything's been stripped apart. We've also gone ahead and removed the front calipers. Some people have different opinions on this, but we have found that the front calipers can lock up on you and keep your front tires from being able to rotate. So we're just going to run rear brakes on this truck and avoid the front brakes. And mainly from that is just because the lines are really shoddy. We're going to try to bypass and make it as simple as we can and run a line right to the rear end, where it's going to get split and go to both wheels. Not allowed to run a pinion brake based on these rules, at least near as I can tell, so we're just going to run that and hope that it'll work. It does have disc brakes in the back, so that definitely helps. We're not running drum brakes, so we do have a little bit of you know, room for error and definitely disc brakes will grip a lot better than what drum brakes would do for us. So that's been the core of it, guys. I mean, it might not seem like a lot as far as showing on the video, but a fair bit of time went into making that happen. And also, thank you for you guys who commented on the video about getting this piece out for the core support so we could pull the motor. There was 3 bolts on each side. Again, 3 on each side, and then another set of 3 on each side over there. So we had 12 bolts total, and then we were able to drive. Once that was unbolted, we were able to drive that piece out using a hammer. It popped out. We were able to pull the motor, and so we'll have to finesse it back into place once we get the other motor ultimately in place. So that's going to be our next step. We're going to prep the front frame for welding of the engine mounts, start taking measurements, trying to figure out where our transmission mount needs to be, see if we need to either remove that cross support there, or try to modify it the way it is, maybe weld up a little bit of bracketry to it or something for that transmission to work, and then make a drive shaft. So the goals for this week is to try to get the motor in, mocked up, and try to make it work. Also, we got some material here for the roll cage. So we got this pre-cut to length at our local steel yard. And so we got the chunks we need for the side-to-side. And then, if you guys kind of remember, for these rules, we can run an X across the back seat. So we're going to do that. So we got 2 pieces for the X, 1 across the dash, and then the 2 side bars that will run along the doors. And again, this is 3x3 square tubing by I think it's 3/16 of an inch. They didn't have the 1/4 inch in stock, so I had to go slightly thinner. But I think for our needs and with the amount of material we're going to use, that will be sufficient. There's a couple 100 pounds worth of steel sitting here, so I think that'll work. So that'll be one of the next upcoming things as well. Other than just mocking up the motor, we're going to get the roll cage in there, weld it up, then weld the doors shut. Got to get the bed here. We're going to try to swap that out with another one, so that'll take a little bit of time, but get the other things taken care of first. The motor in, and this thing hopefully being able to run and move, and the cage in it. So those are our 2 big things to get done, and then we'll see where we're at. The bed is definitely something I want to have happen, but if time doesn't allow, that might be something we'll have to sacrifice and take care of later, but I think we'll be okay. Also, upgrading our welder. So we are finally converting over to gas shielding instead of using that flux core wire stuff. It worked okay with our old welder. Had a big wheel of it when we upgraded to our nicer welder. I just said when I ran out of wire I would upgrade to shielded gas, and that is what we are going to do. So we got the wire sitting there, we got a regulator and the tank, so we're going to get that mounted up to our cart and be ready to start welding all this steel into place. So there you go, guys. There is an update on our Super Duty Derby truck. Again, hopefully you think this is cool. Give us a thumbs up if you like the project so far, and if you've not already done so, consider subscribing. As always, we hope you guys have a great day, and until the next video, we'll talk to you later, guys.